Good to have you with us. Tuesday edition, Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Hope you had a great weekend. There should be no surprise that CBO has scored this, and the Republicans are getting exactly what they wanted. Let me explain, because this is a take that's not anywhere else. This health care plan that the Republicans are putting together and presenting in front of the American people is not for the Democrats. It's not for people who didn't vote for Donald Trump. They don't care about how many people get coverage. They only care about the deficit. They only care about lowering costs for the people that support Republicans. Now, what they're going to do so in other words, what I'm saying is that the people that are going to get hurt on Medicare, they were never going to vote Republican anyway. They don't care if those people don't have insurance. They care about winning elections and satisfying their base. Who's their base? The insurance companies. Here's what the Republicans are selling right now. It's the CBO is scoring it that it will lower costs by 10% over the next so many years. They consider that a big victory. That there'll be a $336 billion savings when it comes to the deficit. Who's going to pay the price? The poor, the elderly. They don't have to vote Republican. That's not their base. Their base is right-wingers, business people, corporatists, middle classers who are buying their stuff, and young people who think that, well, maybe the conservative way is the way to go. That's who they're trying to win over with this health care bill. They don't care about the number of people that are going to lose insurance, because the numbers they want is the direction that they're going to go. Now, the CBO report says a number of different things. Number one, that it is a philosophical shift. Obamacare was to get as many people covered as possible and pay for it with subsidies. And over time, healthcare costs would come down. The Republicans are reversing it. They're saying, no, we don't want government involved, so we're going to eventually get rid of Medicaid as we know it, push it off on the states, have 50 different formulas out there, get it off the back of the federal budget, and let's not worry about it. And eventually we're going to be able to privatize it. And besides that, those people aren't going to vote conservative anyway. They're not going to vote Republican anyway, so don't worry about them. We're not concerned about the, quote, dead Democrats. So Nancy Pelosi's reaction and Chuck Schumer's reaction was certainly predictable yesterday afternoon. How can you morally turn to these people and say you're not going to have insurance? Well, in their world, very easily, because that's who they are. The Republicans are still ruthless when it comes to providing basic care to Americans. The Democrats, the liberals, basic right. The Republicans view it as a business deal. You can either pay for it and help us win elections to keep control of the government, or it's not worth it. That's where this health care bill is. And so this isn't about Donald Trump making sure everybody's going to have flexibility, that this competition is going to work. Let me tell you something. Insurance companies are run by CEOs and board of directors. They're concerned about one thing, their stock price. They're concerned about profit. They're not concerned about, holy shit, we're not competing in Arkansas. We got to get down there and do that, so we'll bring down costs. That's not how they think. And the Republicans are selling this to the American people, that just because they're going to sell across state lines now, that all of a sudden this whole world of competition between the insurance companies is going to open up and you are going to benefit from the private sector. It just doesn't work that way. It never has, and it never will. But the Republicans don't care, because the people that are losing insurance are not the people that are going to put them out of office. So the other day when I said that this is going to be a backfire on Donald Trump, it is from the standpoint that he's made promises, okay? But he's not going to be able to deliver them. And over time, more and more Americans are going to recognize that Trump really doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to health care. It's never been his forte. He's never really been concerned about it. And the fact is that this is now turning into an ideological push to make sure that the government doesn't get involved in any program, and it's going to be the road to privatization. That's how I see health care. And this is why they're going to be eventually able to sell the Freedom Caucus. Right now, they don't have the votes in the House. But you see, Ryan out there this morning is saying great things about the CBO report. Hey, it lowers costs. Hey, it lowers the deficit over time. Doesn't say anything about the number of people that aren't going to get covered. They don't give a shit about that. Okay, so they're going to win the Freedom Caucus over eventually with a number. In fact, they may have to go deeper on the number to get it done. They don't have the votes right now. None of the Democrats are obviously going to support it, and there's enough Freedom Caucus people that are against it. But that's where Trump has got to get his victory legislatively, and that's where the, quote, big negotiation is right now.
Well, I mean, I think we got to go back to obviously the biggest point of this. 24 million people. They are going to lose, or not lose their health insurance, but they will be the number of uninsured.
It's going to be 14 million over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And some are saying that, well, like Senator Cotton says, watch out, you might lose the House. I'm not convinced of that. I think that the gerrymandering has been so effective that they may be able to take this political hit and still maintain control of the House. Not to say that they won't lose seats, but what Cotton is talking about is the same thing the Obama people did back in 2009. They ran over to the House and said, hey, you got to give us cap and trade. They voted for cap and trade when they knew they didn't have the votes in the Senate, and it cost about 20 seats in the midterm election. So that was what I think Cotton was talking about. But I really don't think that they stand a chance because of this health care bill to lose the House. I don't think that.
Absolutely. And then, going back to Trump and his lack of understanding, you think of health care, I think also they've said that, this is just the first phase of the American health care plan or what have you. And then there's going to be phase 2 and phase 3. I mean, are we really ever going to see phase 2 and phase 3?
That's a great point from the standpoint that the Democrats never talked about phase 2 or phase 3 for Obamacare. They just said, here it is. And this is what we got, and it's going to be better. And look at how many people are getting insurance. And, things were good there for a while. But the fact is that rates are always going to go up, no matter what kind of health care plan you have. And more people were covered, and overall costs did come down. But, of course, the Democrats have lost the narrative on that over the last couple of years, especially in the last few months. And I think that Trump is a real novice when it comes to all of this. His job right now is to sell. Premiums are going to go down, down, down. Choices are going to go up, up, up. I mean, that's where he is on this.
Absolutely. And do you think that's all coming? I mean, when you say he's a novice, is he relying on people like Tom Price and his advisors to tell him what to do? Because he doesn't really have any dog in the fight in healthcare and his expertise of being a businessman.
I'm not privy to the White House conversations on this, but it sure seems to me that this healthcare plan, as I said, is tailor-made so it doesn't hurt them politically. And it addresses some of the deficit hawks that are concerned about, number one, the healthcare being on the back of the federal government. Number two, is it the road to privatization? Yes, it is. And will it lower costs for their constituents? And it might. The CBO says that it probably will, to the tune of 10%. I just think that this is callous. It's not what the country wants. The majority of Americans want a step further than the public option, all the way to universal health care. And here's where the Democrats made the mistake. And I think I can speak with this with some bravado, because it's a fact. I covered health care when I was on MSNBC back in 2009 and 2010 more than any other host in the mainstream media. I led my show every night with health care. I pounded on the table every night for the public option because I knew this day was going to come. Because these exchanges, if they did not succeed, and if they were legislatively connected or the purse strings pulled by the legislators on a state level, the ideologues could get in there and ruin it. But if they had a public option at the federal level, it would have been insulated from any kind of state legislative action. And so that's why the public option was so important. We would have avoided all of this right now. There would have been maybe one insurance company dealing in a rural state, but there would have been the federal government as well for everybody, not just the poor people. So the soft underbelly of this right now, as I see it, Trump has to deliver in these major pools that people can buy into, or small businesses are going to turn on him. If small businesses do not win in this, that would be the Republican base saying, hey, we got screwed. That this has got to be better for small businesses. But the only way it's going to be better for small businesses is if people actually have the coverage and the front office bill for the owner of the business goes down. So you got to win on both sides. You just can't sell junk insurance to employees and think that this is going to win in the long haul. That's the soft underbelly of the Republican plan right now. Can they deliver for that sector of the economy? I don't know.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, lastly, I think my last question is more on the political end of it. You said that maybe he doesn't have the votes now, but eventually probably will get them. Is that because do you see any of these Republicans, even the hard right, who don't necessarily see Trump as their biggest ally and they think this didn't go far enough? Do you think eventually they'll come around because they don't want to pick a fight with a first-term president so quickly?
But look, I think that Republicans want to signature this. Republicans want to get rid of Obamacare and get President Obama's name the hell out of there. They want something to work for them that's going to help them in future elections. This is as much about winning future elections and satisfying their base as it is for health care to be provided for Americans. It is an ideological fight that right now the Republicans have the upper hand to win this. The question is, can they make a bill tailor-made to fit their base, to fit their constituents, not caring who it's going to hurt? That's how I see it. Ed Schultz, News and Commentary. We're back tomorrow.